On the far edge of the galaxy, where the twin suns burned orange and violet, stood the planet Valora 9, home of the proud Thralian race. Their cities were carved into glowing mountains, filled with strange creatures, golden temples, and sharp laws that even visitors feared to break. Among these visitors was a single human named Eli, a quiet engineer from Earth who had come to help rebuild damaged machines after the last war. Eli was not a soldier or a hero. He was simple, calm, and curious about everything alien. He often stayed late at the royal hangar, cleaning old tools and repairing transport crafts. The Thralians thought humans were slow, too emotional, and too soft. But Eli never cared. He just wanted to help where he could. That morning, the air was warm, and the smell of metal mixed with the scent of alien flowers. Eli was working on a cargo bot when he heard a loud snort behind him. He turned and froze. The creature standing near the gate was massive, its scales shining like molten gold, its tail heavy enough to crush a hover truck. The alien guards called it Routh, the royal guardian beast of Princess Nara, daughter of the Thralian High Matriarch. Routh was covered in thick mud. Every time it moved, chunks of dirt splashed around. Eli tilted his head and frowned. "You poor thing. You're filthy," he muttered. The beast blinked at him with tired yellow eyes, huffing softly, like it didn't care. Eli, thinking it was just another animal, smiled and grabbed a cleaning hose. He filled a tank with water, added soap, and turned on the sprayer. Bubbles rose in the air. "Let's make you shine again, big guy," he said with a chuckle. The creature sniffed the bubbles curiously, and for a moment it seemed almost peaceful. Eli laughed as he sprayed the beast's scales, watching rivers of foam run down its massive body. But in the nearby courtyard, Nara was returning from her morning council. Her golden armor glimmered in the sunlight. She was proud, fierce, and feared by many. No one dared look her in the eyes unless she allowed it. Her people called her the Flame of the Matriarch. As she walked toward the hangar, she suddenly froze. A strange scent hit her nose, soap and human chemicals. Then she heard the sound of a hose, the laughter of a human, and the growl of her guardian. Her heart dropped. When Nara stepped through the gate, her eyes widened in horror. There stood the human engineer, drenched in suds, humming a tune, while her sacred guardian beast was completely covered in bubbles from head to tail. The sacred markings on its scales were gone, washed away. The air went cold. Every Thralian guard nearby turned pale, their tails curling in fear. One dropped his weapon. Another whispered, "The bond! He erased the bond." Eli looked up, confused. "Oh, hey, you must be the princess. Don't worry, he's all clean now," he said cheerfully, holding up the hose. For a moment, no one moved. Then Nara's voice sliced through the air like a blade. "What have you done, human?" Eli blinked. I just gave him a bath. You washed away his soul link," she screamed. Her voice echoed across the hangar, trembling with fury. "That beast is bound to me by sacred scent. You destroyed what connects our minds." Eli's face went pale. "Wait, I didn't know—" Before he could finish, Roth suddenly roared, shaking the floor. The creature's eyes turned wild and red. Its muscles rippled as it thrashed, smashing against the walls. The bond between Nara and her beast was broken. It no longer recognized her. It was blind with pain and confusion. Eli dropped the hose, heart pounding. "Easy! Calm down!" he shouted, stepping back. But Roth's claws scraped across the metal floor, cutting deep grooves. "Guards!" Nara commanded. "Contain him!" The soldiers aimed their energy spears, but the beast knocked them aside with a single swipe. One was thrown into a pillar, another sent flying into the air. The hangar filled with smoke and sparks. Eli saw the creature's tail swinging toward Nara. Without thinking, he ran forward and shoved her aside. The impact threw him several feet across the floor, his shoulder crashing into a crate. Pain burst through his arm, but he forced himself up. "Stay back," he shouted at her. Nara stared at him, stunned. No one had ever touched her before, let alone risked their life to protect her. Her claws trembled as she whispered, "You fool." You'll die. Routh's eyes locked onto Eli now. It roared again, ready to strike. The human raised his hand slowly, his heart hammering. I didn't mean to hurt you, he said softly. I was just trying to help. Something flickered in the beast's eyes. Confusion, maybe even sorrow. But then it screamed again, shaking its massive head, foam flying everywhere. The ground cracked as it charged forward. Nara screamed his name. Eli stood frozen for a split second, then leapt aside as the beast's claws slammed into the floor where he stood. Sparks flew, smoke, fire, and chaos filled the air. The hangar alarms wailed, and amid the storm, Eli realized one terrible truth. What started as a simple bath had turned into a disaster that could end his life, and maybe start a war between two worlds. He looked at the furious princess and the raging beast, his voice breaking through the noise. I'll fix this, he said, breathless but determined. I swear I'll fix this. And though Nara didn't know it yet, those words would change everything, for her beast, and for all of Valora 9. Smoke still hung heavy in the hangar, twisting like ghosts around the broken beams and fallen guards. The air smelled of burnt metal and soap, and Routh, the royal guardian beast, still roared in confusion, its scales glowing red with fury. Nara stood frozen for a moment, watching her world fall apart, her sacred bond built through years of ritual, gone in seconds because of one foolish human. The creature she had trusted since childhood was now a raging monster that didn't know her, scent, her voice, or her soul anymore. Eli stood across the hangar, clothes torn, face streaked with dirt and blood, still gripping the broken hose. His heart pounded hard in his chest. He had seen angry aliens before, but nothing like this. Nara's golden eyes burned like molten fire, her armor cracked with light, and her tail lashed the ground, leaving deep marks. You broke the oldest law of my people, she shouted, her voice echoing. You erased a living link between us. Eli raised his hands, his voice shaky. I didn't know, I just thought. He looked dirty, I was helping. Helping? She hissed, stepping closer, her voice trembling with rage. You humans think your kindness can fix everything, but your touch only destroys. The guards behind her barely dared to move. Some had fallen, others trembled, afraid to look up. The beast slammed its claws into the floor, roaring again, each roar shaking the metal walls, sparks falling from. Above, Eli tried to move toward the control panel, but two guards blocked him, their spears glowing blue. Stay where you are, human, one growled. Let me try something. Eli said quickly, if you kill me, that beast's going to crush this whole base. Silence, the other snapped, but Nara lifted her hand. Let him speak, she said coldly, her eyes never leaving him. Eli took a deep breath. Your creature's not angry. It's lost. It doesn't understand why it can't feel you anymore. Nara's jaw clenched, her claws flexing. You dare to explain my bond to me? I read your archives, Eli said, his voice steadying. Your connection is through scent and bioelectric waves. Soap killed the scent, but the signal might still be there, weak but not gone. For a moment, silence filled the space except for the beast's ragged breathing. Nara's gaze flickered with something between anger and curiosity. She hated that. He made sense, but she wouldn't admit it. You read Thralian files? She asked, voice low. I fix your ships, Eli said. I fix your machines. I can fix this too, just give me a chance. Before she could answer, Routh turned, sharply, its huge head swinging toward her, its nostrils flaring, eyes burning crimson. It didn't see her as its master anymore. It saw prey. Princess! One of the guards shouted, jumping forward, but Routh's tail whipped him aside like paper. His body slammed into the wall. Eli didn't think, he ran. His boots slipping on the wet floor, he grabbed a heavy metal rod and shouted to the beast, Hey, over here! Routh's head turned, locking on him, its pupils narrowed to slits, and then it charged. The floor cracked under its weight. Nara screamed, No! Eli rolled aside, barely missing its claws, and swung the rod at its snout. Sparks flew. The creature roared and snapped its jaws inches from his face. The smell of its hot breath burned his skin, but he didn't back away. "Come on, big guy, I'm the one you're mad at, not her," he shouted, swinging again, trying to keep it away from Nara. The alien princess watched in disbelief. This fragile human, no armor, no claws, no weapon worthy of war, was fighting her guardian to protect her. "Why?" she whispered under her breath. "Why would you do this?" Routh swung its tail, smashing into Eli's side. He flew through, the air hitting the ground hard. Pain exploded through his ribs, but he still tried to rise. Nara's heart clenched. Something inside her, rage, confusion, fear, all twisted together. She took a step forward and shouted, "Stop!" Her voice echoed with ancient power. For a heartbeat, the beast froze, its claws hanging mid-air. It blinked, confused again, its breath slowing slightly. Eli coughed, clutching his ribs. "See? He still hears you. It's not gone, not fully." Nara looked at him, her golden eyes softer for a brief second. Then she turned back to the creature, whispering words from her mother's tongue. "Routh, my heart, my flame, remember me." The creature trembled, its body shaking violently, its chest heaving, and for a moment, its eyes flickered from red to gold. But then a loud crack sounded from the ceiling. A beam fell, hitting the floor. The noise startled it again, and it roared louder than ever, breaking through the wall toward the open sky, vanishing into the wilds beyond the palace cliffs. Wind rushed in, carrying the scent of rain. Silence followed, broken only by the hum of flickering lights. Nara turned toward Eli, eyes blazing again. "You will come with me," she said, voice trembling. "You broke it, you will fix it." Eli wiped blood from his lip, breathing hard. "I'll try, but I'll need your help." Nara stared at him for a long time, her pride fighting her logic. Then she finally spoke. "If you fail, human, you won't live to try again." Eli nodded slowly. "Fair deal," he said, limping toward the wreckage. And as thunder rolled over Valora 9, both of them knew the fight had only just begun, and somewhere in the dark wilds beyond, a furious beast waited for the one who dared to wash away its soul. The storm had passed, but chaos still lingered over the royal city, the sound of alarms echoing in the distance. The great guardian beast Routh was gone, leaving behind only shattered walls and fear. Smoke curled into the pink sky of Valora 9 as guards dragged away the injured, and engineers scrambled to repair the hangar. Eli stood near the wreckage, blood dripping from a cut above his eyebrow. His ribs hurt every time he breathed, but his eyes kept searching the sky, hoping to see the giant shadow of the beast returning. "He didn't go far," he murmured. "He's confused, scared, like an animal that lost its home." Behind him, the alien princess Nara walked slowly down the steps of the hangar. Her armor had cracks from the earlier fight. Her scales shimmered faintly in the morning light, and her face carried both fury and exhaustion. Guards followed her, but none dared speak. Her silence was more dangerous than her anger. When she stopped beside Eli, the humans nearby backed away. She looked at him with eyes sharp as glass. "You should be dead," she said softly, her voice almost shaking. Eli didn't look at her. "Maybe," he replied, "but someone had to stop him from crushing you." Her tail flicked once, hard against the ground. "Do not think saving my life will erase your crime," she hissed. "You destroyed a royal bond, human. That beast will never trust again. Do you even understand what that means to my people?" Eli turned to her, tired but calm. "Then teach me," he said. "Tell me what I broke so I can fix it." Her eyes narrowed. "You cannot fix what is sacred." "Maybe not the same way you would," Eli said, his voice firm. "But I can try something different." Nara stared at him, confused by his steady tone. Most humans would have begged for mercy, but this one looked at her as an equal. Something about that unsettled her. She wanted to hate him, but his calm defiance made her hesitate. Before she could speak again, a soldier ran toward them. "Princess," he shouted, panting. "The beast, Routh. It's been sighted in the canyons outside the city. It's heading toward the power reactors." Every guard stiffened. Nara's heart froze. The reactors, if Routh attacked them, half the city could be destroyed. "Prepare the strike teams," she ordered, her voice sharp again. Eli stepped forward quickly. "Wait, you can't kill him!" She turned on him, eyes burning. "You dare tell me what I can't do? He's your guardian," Eli said, desperate now. "He's sick, not evil. You said it yourself, the bond's broken. He doesn't know who he is without you. Nara hesitated for half a heartbeat, then looked away. He's beyond saving, she whispered. He will destroy everything in his path. Then let me go after him, Eli said, stepping closer. I caused this. I'll fix it, the guards laughed bitterly. A human against the royal beast? One scoffed. You won't last a minute, Eli didn't care. Maybe not. But maybe he'll listen to me. He didn't kill me in the hangar, he had the chance. Nara studied him in silence. His courage confused her. Humans were known to be fragile, but this one, he didn't act like prey. After a long pause, she said quietly, You'll die and it will change nothing. Eli smiled faintly. Then let me die trying. Nara looked up at the horizon where dark clouds gathered over the canyon ridge. She closed her eyes briefly, then spoke to her guards. Prepare a shuttle, she said. We leave in 10 minutes. Eli blinked in surprise. We? Her gaze met his. You started this, human, she said coldly. You will end it. But I will make sure you don't run away. Soon after, they boarded a small flyer slicing through the clouds. The wind howled outside as the landscape shifted from bright crystal towers to rocky shadowed canyons. Thunder rolled across the cliffs. When they landed, the air was thick with smoke and ozone. The ground trembled under each roar that came from the valley below. Eli looked down the slope and saw Roth thrashing among the old reactor ruins, its scales glowing like molten fire. Sparks exploded where it struck the ground. He's losing control, Eli whispered. Nara's expression was unreadable. He's in pain. Without our bond, his senses twist. He cannot tell friend from foe. Eli took a deep breath, his heart hammering. Then I'll remind him. Before she could stop him, he began walking down the slope toward the beast. Nara shouted after him, Eli, stop. He'll kill you. But he didn't listen. He approached slowly, palms open, speaking softly even though the wind nearly swallowed his words. Hey, big guy. It's me again, remember? The soap idiot. Roth's massive head turned, eyes glowing red and blue, confused and furious. It roared, shaking the cliffs, sending rocks tumbling down. Eli kept walking. I know I messed up. You hate this smell, don't you? That's okay. I'll fix it, I promise. Just please don't hurt anyone else. For a moment, the beast hesitated. It tilted its head, sniffing the air, its pupils widening slightly. From above, Nara watched, her chest tightening. The human was insane, but brave. She gripped the railing of the shuttle, whispering, If you survive this, human, maybe, you are not what I thought. The next second, Roth roared again, flames bursting from its mouth. The blast hit the ground right before Eli, throwing him backward into the dust. The rocks glowed red-hot around him, but even as the world shook, Eli struggled to his knees and shouted, I'm not leaving you, do you hear me? I'll save you even if you hate me for it. High above, lightning split the sky, and somewhere deep inside that roaring monster, a flicker of recognition burned, a memory of a scent that once meant safety. It wasn't over yet. It was just beginning. The night air of Valora 9 was heavy with dust and light rain. The canyons below the royal city were a maze of glowing rock veins and steam vents. Every few seconds, a low rumble echoed through the cliffs, Roth's furious cries. Each roar shook the ground and sent ripples through the air, a sound of pain and confusion that reached even the cold stars above. Eli sat near the edge of the canyon, breathing hard. His clothes were torn, his skin marked with burns from the creature's fire breath, but he wasn't afraid, just exhausted and determined. Beside him stood Princess Nara, arms crossed, golden scales gleaming faintly under the moonlight. She had followed him here, though she hadn't said why. Do you finally believe it can't be saved? She asked softly, her tone halfway between anger and sorrow. Eli shook his head. No, I think he's still fighting, just lost. Like someone waking up in a world that doesn't make sense. Nara frowned. You speak of him like you understand. You are human. You cannot feel the bond. You cannot imagine what it means to lose it. Eli looked up at her, eyes tired but steady. You're right, but I know what it means to lose a friend. That made her pause. No one spoke to her like that. Her people treated her like a symbol of power, not a person who could feel pain. She turned away quickly, hiding her face in the dim light. Below them, Routh paced in circles around a broken reactor tower, its massive claws grinding against the metal. Sparks burst as the ground trembled. Each movement looked slower now, weaker. The beast's strength was fading, but its madness was growing. Eli pulled a small metal case from his pack. Inside were wires, chips, and glowing tubes. He set them carefully on the ground, the blue light reflecting off the rain puddles. "What are you doing?" Nara asked. "Building something," Eli replied. "A signal bridge. Your archive said the bond works through neural frequencies. Maybe I can copy that connection with tech. If I can tune it to your wavelength, Routh might recognize you again." Nara's eyes widened. "That is forbidden technology. No one outside my bloodline is allowed to replicate the bond." Eli smiled faintly. "Guess it's a good thing I'm not part of your empire then." Her tail flicked angrily, but she didn't stop him. Instead, she crouched beside him, watching his quick hands work. His movements were rough but sure, guided by instinct and courage. The soft hum of his tools filled the quiet night. After a moment, she spoke again, voice lower this time. "Why are you doing this? You could run. My guards would not chase you this far." Eli didn't look up. "Because I caused this. And because that beast didn't kill me when it had the chance. Maybe part of him knew I meant no harm." Nara fell silent, her sharp gaze softening. There was something in this human she hadn't expected. Honor, maybe even compassion. For the first time, she wondered if the stories about humans being reckless and selfish were wrong. When Eli finished assembling the device, he stood and wiped the dirt from his hands. The small emitter pulsed with blue light. "This is it," he said. "I'll connect this to your armor's energy core. It should project your bond signal again, just enough for him to feel it." Nara stared at the glowing device. "If it fails?" Eli met her eyes. "Then he'll kill us both." A long silence passed. Then Nara nodded once. "Very well, human. Let us begin." Together they climbed down the canyon. The closer they got, the heavier the air felt. Routh's growls rolled through their bones. The creature's scales flickered like dying embers. Eli crouched behind a rock, adjusting the frequency dial. "When I say go, stand where he can see you," he said. "The signal will draw his focus to you." Nara took a deep breath. Her heart pounded. This was madness, but she would rather die trying to save her companion than live knowing she let him fade into nothing. "Go!" Eli shouted. Nara stepped out into the open. Her voice rang across the canyon, clear and strong. "Routh, it's me!" "Look at me." The creature's head snapped up. It roared, shaking the cliffs. Eli hit the switch on his emitter. The machine buzzed, sending out waves of golden light. Routh froze mid-step, its eyes flickering between red and gold. It sniffed the air, confused. Nara walked closer, hands trembling. "Remember me," she whispered. "Your bond, your heart." For a few seconds, the world held its breath. Then the beast groaned softly, a deep broken sound, and lowered its head slightly. Eli smiled in relief. "It's working," he shouted over the wind, but the joy didn't last. The emitter sparked, overloaded by the feedback of the beast's energy. A blast of light exploded from it, throwing Eli back. The bond flickered, then vanished. Routh screamed in pain, thrashing again, and Nara fell to her knees. No, please." Eli crawled to her side, coughing from the smoke. The device was ruined, its wires melted. "We were close," he said softly. "So close." Nara looked at him, her eyes wet and fierce. "You risked your life for him." "For me? Why?" Eli smiled faintly through the blood on his face. "Because I don't like losing friends twice." She stared at him, speechless. In that moment, something shifted between them, an understanding that crossed every wall of species. Pride and pain. The storm raged above, lightning cracking the sky. But down in that broken canyon, hope flickered again. The human had failed once more. But this time, the alien princess didn't see him as a fool. She saw him as a fighter, and deep inside the beast's heart, beneath the anger and confusion, a spark of memory stirred. The scent of courage, the sound of a voice that refused to give up. The rebond hadn't worked yet, but something far greater had just begun. The night stretched long and silent over the canyon. The fires had died, leaving trails of smoke curling into the dark. In the distance, faint tremors still echoed from the wounded guardian beast. Every now and then, a low, sorrowful sound rolled through the valley, half roar, half cry. Eli sat near the wrecked machine that once glowed with promise. Its wires were melted, its light gone. His hands trembled as he tried to clean soot off the circuits. It almost worked, he whispered to himself, staring at the broken emitter. His face was covered with scratches, his eyes dull with exhaustion. Behind him, Princess Nara stood still, watching. The human's back was straight, even in pain. He didn't complain, didn't curse, didn't ask for help. He simply worked, quiet and determined. No Thralian would ever understand why he bothered. A mistake like his usually meant exile or death. Yet here he was, still trying to fix what couldn't be fixed. "Human," she said finally, her voice low and uncertain. He turned his head slightly. "Eli," he corrected gently.
"Name's Eli," Nara frowned.
"Eli," she repeated slowly, the strange word heavy on her tongue. "Why do you not rest?" "The beast will not return tonight," Eli shrugged. "If I stop, I'll start thinking about what went wrong. I'd rather keep moving." Nara crossed her arms, her golden scales catching the soft moonlight. "You speak as if failure does not frighten you." He smiled faintly. "It does. But fear never fixed anything." Those words stayed in her mind longer than she expected. She sat near him, folding her legs, her long tail curling beside her. "Among my people," she began softly, "failure means weakness. We are trained never to show it. We fight until we win or die." Eli looked at her, surprised by the sudden softness in her voice. "And does that make you happy?" She hesitated. "It makes us strong." He smiled again, tired but kind. "Sometimes strength is about knowing when to forgive yourself." The princess turned away, staring into the distance. His words made her chest feel tight, uncomfortable. No one had ever spoken to her that way. Not her advisors, not her guards, not even her mother, the matriarch herself. For years she had lived surrounded by power, by rules, by duty, but this human, fragile, foolish, and brave spoke to her as if she were just a person. A sudden sound broke the silence. A faint growl came from below. Both of them froze. Down in the canyon shadows, Routh stirred. The beast's tail twitched, claws scraping stone. "He's still alive," Eli said quickly, standing up. Nara's heart raced. He should not be moving. The link is broken. His mind should be collapsing. Eli grabbed the broken device. "Maybe he's trying to find it again," he said. "Maybe your bond wasn't completely erased. There's still something left." Nara's eyes softened. "You think my guardian is calling for me?" "I think he's calling for help," Eli replied. They looked at each other for a long moment. Something unspoken passed between them. Hope. Eli crouched again, studying the device. "I can rebuild this."
"I just need new conductors and a stabilizer coil. That technology exists only in the royal palace," Nara said quietly.
"We would need to return." "Then let's go," Eli said without hesitation. She stared at him. "You would walk back into my mother's court after what you've done?" He grinned weakly. "If it means saving him and keeping your city from burning down again, yeah, I would." Nara couldn't help it. She laughed softly. The sound surprised even her. It wasn't the cold laugh of a commander, but something gentler. "You are either very brave or very foolish, Eli of Earth." "Maybe both," he said with a smile. They began climbing out of the canyon. The path was steep and broken, the wind cold and sharp. Halfway up, Nara slipped on loose gravel. Before she could fall, Eli caught her arm. For a moment, their eyes met. Hers glowing gold, his warm and human. "Careful," he said quietly. "Can't save your world without you." Her heart gave a small, strange flutter. She pulled her hand away quickly. "You talk too much," she muttered, walking ahead, but her tail flicked nervously behind her. By dawn, they reached the outer walls of the palace. The guards raised their spears, but Nara lifted her hand. "He is with me," she declared. No one dared argue. As they entered the grand halls, whispers filled the air. The alien princess walking beside a human? It was unthinkable. Yet she walked proudly, ignoring the stares. Inside the lab, Eli placed the ruined device on a crystal table. The alien scientists gathered around, murmuring in disbelief. "You built this?" one asked. Eli nodded. "With scraps," the scientist scoffed. "Impossible," Nara's voice cut through the room. "He speaks truth, and he will finish it here." The room went silent. The princess had just broken protocol. No outsider was ever allowed near royal tech. But her tone left no room for argument. As Eli began rebuilding the machine, Nara stood beside him, watching every movement. His hands were steady again, his focus sharp. She felt an unexpected calm watching him work. For the first time, she didn't see him as a trespasser or a fool. She saw him as something her world had never known. Someone who fought not for glory, but because his heart refused to give up. And deep down, though she wouldn't admit it yet, Nara felt something new stirring inside her. Respect. Admiration. Maybe even something far more dangerous. Because as the first light of dawn touched the sky of Valora 9, the alien princess realized that the human who had broken her sacred bond was slowly beginning to rebuild her heart. The palace of Valora 9 shimmered under the twin suns, yet inside its grand halls, tension filled the air. The scent of burnt circuits, spilled oil, and cold metal hung like a storm that refused to fade. In the center of the royal laboratory, the human stood bent over a glowing workbench, his hands steady despite the fatigue written all over his face. Eli had been working for hours, maybe longer. His hair was messy, his arms smeared with grease, but his focus never broke. Around him stood a dozen alien scientists whispering nervously among themselves. None of them dared speak loudly. The only sound was the hum of his rebuilt emitter and the soft pulse of its golden light. Princess Nara watched silently from the balcony above, her golden eyes reflecting both curiosity and worry. She had ordered the guards to stay back. No one interfered with the human's work. Not even her mother, the matriarch herself, had dared stop her when she said, "If he fails, I'll deal with him myself." But deep down, she didn't want him to fail. Eli tightened the final screw, his fingers trembling. The new bond device looked more elegant now. Half human engineering, half Thralian technology. The power core glowed like a small sun in his hands. He turned to Nara and said softly, "It's ready." The princess stepped down from the balcony, her cloak flowing like molten gold behind her. "And you are certain it will work this time?" He nodded, though his voice was rough. "If the old link still exists in Routh's mind, this will reach it." But he hesitated. Nara frowned. "But what?" "The connection requires two life energies to synchronize, one to transmit, one to stabilize," Eli explained. "The human brain isn't built for your kind of energy frequency. If I link with you, there's a chance I won't survive." Her eyes widened. "You would risk your life." "For my creature?" Eli met her gaze calmly. "For your creature. For you. For the mistake I made." For the first time, she couldn't find her words. She had seen warriors sacrifice themselves in battle, but this was different. He wasn't fighting for glory, or for a crown. He was fighting out of guilt, compassion, and something she didn't understand yet. "You are reckless," she whispered, almost to herself. Eli smiled faintly. "You keep saying that." They left the palace before dusk, taking the device to the canyon where Routh had fallen asleep again among the broken reactor ruins. The creature's breathing echoed like distant thunder. The air shimmered with faint heat around its body. Nara placed her hand on its scales, feeling the emptiness where their bond once thrived. Her chest tightened. "He is fading," she said quietly. Eli stood beside her, adjusting the emitter. "Then let's bring him back." She looked at him, her voice shaking slightly. "If this fails, your heart may stop." Eli chuckled softly. "Guess we'd better not fail then." Nara took a deep breath. "What must I do?" He handed her a small wristband with a thin wire. "Place this over your pulse node. When the light turns blue, focus your bond on him. Think of your memories, the first time you met, your connection. I'll tune the signal and push it through both of us into his neural pattern." "And if your body rejects the pulse?" she asked. Eli smiled. "Then you'll owe me a drink in the afterlife." Nara almost laughed, but the lump in her throat stopped it. She nodded instead. "Begin." The machine came alive with a low hum. Rings of light spread outward, surrounding them in a glowing circle. Sparks flickered in the air like falling stars. Eli gritted his teeth as the current hit his nerves, his muscles twitching painfully. Nara gasped, feeling the power connect through her veins. Their minds touched. For a brief instant, she saw flashes of Eli's memories. His small workshop on Earth, his mother's voice. The way he used to watch the stars from his window and dream of building something greater. She saw loneliness, kindness, and a strange, quiet courage. At the same time, Eli felt her memories too. Her childhood with Routh, running through the golden fields of Valora 9, laughing as the creature followed her. He saw her training, her pride, and the crushing pressure of being born royal. The weight she carried behind her armor. The connection grew stronger, the light around them blinding now. Nara shouted, "He's responding!" Routh's chest rose sharply, his scales glowing brighter, golden once more. His eyes fluttered open, confused but no longer wild. The creature growled softly, a sound not of anger but recognition. "It's working." Eli gasped, struggling to stay conscious. The energy surged, brighter and hotter. Nara turned to him, horror in her eyes. His skin glowed faintly from the overload. Eli, stop! You'll burn from the inside. He shook his head weakly. Not yet. Just a little longer. Another pulse of light exploded outward, lifting dust and stones around them. Routh let out a mighty roar, then fell silent, breathing steadily once more. The bond had returned. Nara fell to her knees, tears streaking down her face. He remembers me, she whispered. He remembers. Eli smiled faintly, his vision fading. Told you not to give up. Then he collapsed. Eli, she screamed, catching him before he hit the ground. His pulse was weak but still there. She held him close, her claws trembling. You foolish, reckless human, she whispered, her voice breaking. Behind them, Routh bowed its massive head as if understanding. Its eyes glowed gold again, calm and loyal. Nara looked up at the beast, her heart heavy with both joy and fear. He saved you, and me, she whispered. The wind rose softly, carrying the scent of rain and life through the canyon, and as she cradled the unconscious human in her arms, Princess Nara finally understood. Humans were not weak. They were something her people had never known. They were boundless. The first light of dawn touched the edge of the canyon, painting the sky in soft gold and silver. The rain had stopped and the air smelled of wet earth and burnt metal. In the quiet valley, the guardian beast Routh rested peacefully for the first time in days. Its scales shimmered gently, glowing with the warmth of renewed life. The sacred bond had returned. Beside the creature lay Eli, the human whose body was still and pale. His chest rose and fell faintly, a fragile rhythm between life and silence. Kneeling beside him was Princess Nara, her golden eyes reflecting the morning light and the ache in her heart. Her armor was cracked, her hands trembling as she touched his face. Wake up, she whispered softly. You've done enough. Please wake up. For a moment there was only silence, broken by the slow rumble of Routh's breathing. The mighty creature lowered its head beside them, its enormous eye gazing at the small human who had risked everything to save it. Then, in a gesture that none of her kind had ever witnessed, the beast gently nudged Eli's shoulder with its snout. A faint groan escaped his lips. Nara gasped, leaning closer. Eli, his eyes fluttered open, weak but alive. He blinked at the golden morning sky, confused. Still not dead? He murmured, his voice rough. A laugh escaped Nara's throat, half relief, half disbelief. You foolish creature. You nearly burned your own heart to ash. Eli gave a tired smile. Worth it. If it worked. She turned her head toward Routh. It did. He remembers me. You saved him. He stared at the beast, which now lay still and calm beside them. Then I guess I didn't mess everything up after all. For the first time in her life, Nara smiled, not as a princess, not as a warrior, but as someone who had finally seen something pure. No, she said softly. You didn't. They sat together in silence for a long while. The sunlight crept slowly across the rocks, chasing away the shadows. The only sounds were the wind and the distant hum of the city waking far above them. Then Nara spoke again, her voice quieter, almost uncertain. When you first came here, I thought humans were weak. You were soft, slow, clumsy with our tools. But now I see. She looked at him, her eyes gentle. Strength isn't in claws or armor. It's in the heart. You showed me that. Eli chuckled faintly. Guess soap and stupidity go a long way, huh? Nara blinked, confused. Soap? He laughed again, weak but genuine. Never mind. Routh rumbled softly, a deep sound like laughter, and nudged them both again. Nara smiled, placing a hand on the beast's snout. He forgives you, she said. Eli sighed with relief. That's good. I'm not sure I could handle both of you being mad at me. For a moment, even Nara laughed, a bright, soft sound that echoed across the canyon. The kind of laugh that made the world feel lighter. As the suns climbed higher, a royal flyer descended from above, shimmering with blue light. Guards stepped out cautiously, their eyes wide at the sight below, their princess kneeling beside a human, both alive, both smiling, and the mighty Routh calm at their side. One of the guards bowed deeply. Princess Nara, the matriarch requests your return. She stood slowly, still supporting Eli by the arm. Tell her I will return soon, she said firmly. But not alone. The guard looked uncertain. You mean to bring the human into the royal court? Her gaze was steady. He saved me. He saved our guardian. He will walk beside me. Eli blinked in surprise. That might not go over well with your mom. Nara gave him a small, teasing smile. Let her try to argue. She has not met a human who can fix the unfixable. They returned to the palace together. Crowds lined the streets, whispering in disbelief as they saw their royal princess walking beside a battered human, her hand resting lightly on his shoulder. Behind them, the guardian beast followed calmly, its golden eyes bright once more. When they entered the grand hall, the matriarch rose from her throne, tall and radiant, her gaze sharp. My daughter, she said, you defied my orders. You brought danger to our city, and now you bring him? Nara bowed slightly, but her voice was strong. Yes, mother. I bring the one who saved your daughter's life, your guardian spirit, and your empire's honor. Gasps filled the hall. The matriarch's eyes narrowed. She studied Eli for a long time, then looked at Routh, alive, calm, loyal once more. Finally, she spoke. You are either the luckiest fool in the galaxy, or something far rarer. Eli scratched the back of his neck. I'll take fool. It's easier to spell. The alien queen actually smiled, just a small, brief curve of her lips. You have courage, human. Valora 9 remembers those who show such things. She turned to Nara. You have done well, my daughter. Nara glanced at Eli, her heart strangely full. I did not do it alone. From that day forward, the story spread through every corner of the Thralian Empire, of the human who washed away a sacred bond and risked his life to restore it. Of the alien princess who learned that courage does not always roar. Sometimes it speaks softly and refuses to give up. And as weeks passed, whenever Nara walked through the royal gardens, she often found Eli sitting under the silver trees, tinkering with small machines while Routh dozed nearby. One day she asked him, Do all humans risk their lives for strangers? He smiled, looking up at her. No, just for friends. Her golden eyes softened. Then I'm lucky to be counted as one, Eli chuckled. Careful, princess. Where I come from, that almost sounds like a confession. She looked away quickly, hiding a smile. Then perhaps you should stay a little longer. To be certain. And as Routh rumbled in approval beside them, the first true laughter of peace rolled through the palace of Valora 9, marking not the end of a story, but the beginning of something greater. A bond between worlds, between hearts, and between a human and an alien who both finally understood what it meant to belong.